Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you. My topic today is building a bridge over troubled waters using cognitive science, psychology, and a good heart. Today, the United States is terribly divided, with people with conflicting views in separate camps opposing one another. Families are divided. The world is divided. There are racial divides, religious divides, cultural divides, economic divides, and of course, political divides. In the US, politics separates people into bitter battles of divisive parties, and big lies are deliberately told and retold. The US Capitol is attacked by rioters in a shocking insurrection. Conspiracy theories abound. Facts and truth have no consensus. There is an alternate reality. And many good people are so dismayed and discouraged and wonder what can be done. There is no magical answer. But we will look to science and the research into human understanding on how we change or don't change, and what we can do with good hearts to make life better by building a bridge of connection over these troubled waters.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I'm on your side. Oh, when times get rough and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down.
Remember that wonderful song? So now let's take a look at the divisions, why we have so many, and what we can do about it. In the US and the world, politics plays a big role in creating more divides, as leaders maneuver and manipulate to gain more influence and power. Some politicians deliberately blame one race, religion, or nationality as the scapegoat for the problems affecting the public. Some people are hurting. Some are getting killed. There are riots, and there are cries to fix the system. Truth takes a backseat to lies, and a scandalous tweet gets more attention than a kind thought. A key to understanding some of the big divides among people is how we look out at the world. And how we look out at the world is through frames. George Lakoff has been called the father of framing. George is one of the world's most renowned cognitive scientists and linguists. He is Emeritus Distinguished Professor of Cognitive Science and Linguistics at the University of California at Berkeley. George is also a New York Times bestselling author of many books, including Don't Think of an elephant, and books based on the mind and language. So what is framing? Framing is a viewpoint from which we look out to see the world. Yes, this is a funny picture of me in Petra with a frame looking out, but it gives you the idea. George Lakoff says there are two major frames in life, or two core belief systems. They revolve around the metaphor of the family. Because these frames affect a person's perspective and attitudes so much in life, it is very helpful to understand them. One of the major frames is the authoritarian, strict father frame. The other major frame is the nurturant parent frame. In the authoritarian, strict father frame, it is the father who knows best and whose word is final, and family members need to obey. If a version of this is part of your background experience in how you have grown up, or if it is the frame you choose to use today, it often predisposes a person to accept and even desire authoritarian leaders, George Lakoff says. Conservatives generally believe more in the strict father frame, he says. The other major frame is the nurturant parent, who invites family members to be part of the discussion in group decision-making. If this is your background experience, or the frame you choose today, then you are predisposed to a more democratic, shared leadership, George Lakoff says. Liberals and progressives believe more in a nurturant parent leadership frame, he notes. Moderates are people in the middle who hold some ideas from both frames, he says. So, depending upon the two major parental frames, there are divides of beliefs, values, opinions, perspectives, and biases. We all have biases, and sometimes we're not even aware of them, but we all have them. Even not liking broccoli is a bias. So which parental frame do you think you use in your worldview? The strict authoritarian father or the nurturant parent? Got it figured out? Okay. Frames are important, George Lakoff says, because research shows that it is frames, not facts, that often govern our decisions. I'm repeating. Research shows that frames, not facts, often govern our decisions. We have certainly seen this in the political world. Former President Trump expresses the authoritarian father mode of leadership, and to his followers, his word is final. Thus, when Trump states the big lie that he won the presidential election, which has clearly been disproven by the fact that Joe Biden won, for Trump's followers, these facts don't really matter, but what he says does. George Lakoff says that cognitive science shows that repeating a lie constantly is one technique that is very, very effective. In layman's terms, it's almost like it creates a groove in the brain and is reinforced every time the lie is repeated. which makes the lie even more powerful. Big lies have been constantly told by the losing presidential candidate and his cohorts. The big lies have had a major effect on public thinking and beliefs, increasing the divide. George Lakoff says, avoid repeating the lie and state the truth often. So the truth is, Joe Biden won the US presidency by 7 million more popular votes than Donald Trump. And Joe Biden won by more than 74 electoral votes than Trump. Donald Trump lost many recounts of votes, and he lost many court cases, but he still repeatedly lies and continues to claim he won. Thousands of deluded Trump supporters who were following their authoritarian leader gathered in Washington, D.C. on January 6th and were worked up by the big lie Trump told that he won the election. Many Trump followers became insurrectionists, and they stormed the Capitol in a riot to try to stop the legal count of the electoral vote and to negate the vote of the majority of the American people. We all saw this on TV, and it was awful, awful. It led to former President Trump's second impeachment. So, we can firmly disagree with the ideas and terrible actions of some of our fellow humans. And yet we know that they and we are part of the one human family, which we care about very much. We affirm that. Joe Biden won the presidency in 2020 in what the head of U.S. elections oversight said was the most secure election in history. Today, there is a divide and separate effort in the U.S. Hate campaigns are being waged to deliberately turn one group of people against another group. It isn't just that other people may look different, think differently, or vote differently. There is an effort to demonize groups of people and make them seem less than human. George Lakoff and other experts say it is easier to deny people respect and decent treatment, and even their civil rights of voting, if others are viewed as lesser, who don't count, and are disposable. Negative labels and names are given to opponents to disparage them and undermine them. Divisions also come from conspiracy theories. Propaganda campaigns with alternate facts are manufactured and promoted, leading to alternate realities. Social media fires up the untruths and spreads the lies further and further. Only information that feeds that alternate reality is siloed into one's news feeds. The COVID pandemic has spurred a lot of conspiracy theories. For some people living where there are few cases of COVID infections or deaths, like in rural areas or smaller countries or islands, it is difficult for them as they look through the frame of fewer cases to see the bigger picture. For them, it is difficult to realize the big difference that is in major cities with the pandemic, with hospitals and medical staffs overwhelmed with infections and deaths, and so many families dealing with the loss of loved ones. In the US, for example, over 600,000 people have died from COVID, with over 33 million infections. These are more than just numbers. These are people's lives. Vaccinations in the US are increasing greatly, but the pandemic is not over. Politicians and social media have deliberately ignored or distorted science, causing even more divisions. Some people are refusing to get the vaccines, while many people are thrilled to get it. Wearing masks has become a political issue. Businesses are caught in the middle when infections soar. The public is growing weary. Although good progress continues and a sense of some normalcy is in sight for many. COVID has certainly shown our connectedness. We're all in this together. And feelings often count more than facts about these issues. The esoteric wisdom says that most of the public is emotionally polarized in their consciousness. George Lakoff says that in public matters, facts play a secondary role to one's frame of viewpoints. George suggests trying to connect with others by going within and using their frames. So how can we bring change and help bridge the divide? We'll look at this next. For some insights on making changes, we look to Cassandra Veaton, a psychologist, past president of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and current executive director of the John Brick Mental Health Foundation. I invited my friend Cassie to speak at this conference in 2016 about a program she developed for IONS, and I helped fund, called Consciousness, Communication, and Change, or C3. It's about how we change and why we don't. Cassie says that research shows that facts don't matter that much to change most people, but she says their experiences do. The research shows that new experiences can bring change. Research also shows that common tactics, such as overwhelming a person with facts, or arguing, bullying, preaching, or shaming, as techniques used for motivation for change, do not work. Yet so often we try these tactics. Brené Brown, well-known psychologist, researcher, and author, agrees. She says shaming, humiliation, and name-calling don't bring real change. They just build walls and destroy relationships. She strongly advises against using these tactics. Cassie says research shows that new experiences we have that expand our perspectives and put us in another person's shoes can be very effective for change. I experienced this firsthand when I went to ION's headquarters with Cassie for the launch of the C3 program. I also wanted to experience the beginning of ION's virtual reality program that they were developing in honor of founder Edgar Mitchell. It was a chance to walk in Edgar's shoes and to experience a touch of what Edgar did as an astronaut in outer space. Cassie and ION scientist Lauren Carpenter obliged me in a sample of the most wonderful virtual reality experience of being in outer space that I did not want to leave. It was magnificent and gave me a personal experience of awe. And it increased my love of space exploration and the connected universe we live in. Edgar Mitchell was a friend of mine. I had been to the Kennedy Space Center with Edgar and saw his small space capsule. And I heard a lot of his wonderful outer space stories. I had invited Edgar to speak at this conference too. Now, Edgar's space adventures became more real to me. Edgar was the sixth man to walk on the moon, and he had many exciting experiences as part of the Apollo 14 team. Pictured is the space capsule that took him from the spaceship to land on the moon. Edgar also had an amazing samadhi-like expansion of consciousness, looking out the spaceship window on the flight back to Earth. He said he was engulfed by a profound sense of universal connectedness, an epiphany. The presence of divinity became almost palpable, and I knew that life in the universe was not just an accident based on random process. This direct spiritual experience prompted Edgar to launch IONS, to use science to explore consciousness. Today, IONS hopes that through virtual reality, some of Edgar's physical outer plane experiences can be a stimulus for other people too. The IONS program is ready now, so you might check it out. Virtual reality experiences can help us and change us. The overview effect, which is the view of Earth from space, in pictures or in person, has also changed many people's perspectives. There is a video about this on my Spiritual Life TV channel. Other research shows that a person can change via storytelling, books, and movies, as we imagine ourselves to be one of the characters, or having that experience ourselves too. It may expand our understanding of someone else's life, and thus our attitudes and viewpoints are modified. Timothy Wilson, psychology professor at the University of Virginia and author of the book Redirect, which is about how we change our minds and behavior, says, stories are more powerful than data in bringing change because the stories allow individuals to identify emotionally with people and ideas that they otherwise might see as outsiders. Once you care about a character, he says, you can find a way to fit them into your circle. My friend Sandra DeCastro Buffington, who is a leader in social impact entertainment and conscious media, has long known the power of story to bring changes. She spoke at this conference and shared many of her experiences about connecting movie people with progressive story ideas. Mark Gerson also has been focusing a long time on how to bring change and understanding among people. He is a well-known mediator, leadership consultant, author, and activist across political divides. And he's a friend of mine. Mark realized after working with many Democrats and Republicans that there is a third way, a transpartisan way of cooperation and collaboration. And he has spent much of his career helping to bring people together. He takes seriously the seal of the United States, which is e pluribus unum, out of many, one. He believes it is a truth we need to live into. In 1996, in the US Congress, the members of the House of Representatives were disturbed about all the divisions and decline in civility, trust, and cooperation among members. In years past, people from both parties had worked together fairly well. For example, Republican President Ronald Reagan and Democratic Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, disagreed on issues, but worked together to find compromises. And Senator Ted Kennedy had warm friendships with people on both sides of the aisle, and he could build collaborations on both sides to advance important legislation. But a more fierce, win at all cost attitude had begun to take over Congress. And members now were disturbed about it and decided to hold a congressional retreat to find a better way to work with one another. Mark Gerson was asked to help organize and facilitate this bipartisan congressional retreat and help members find a common ground. Out of that congressional retreat came more respect, listening, fairness, cooperation, and connection among House members. And those qualities had been the ground rules for the retreat. It seemed to be a success. But later on, back on Capitol Hill, the ground rules were forgotten, and the hyper-partisan slide back into the mud by congressional members was resumed. And it continues strong to this day. Mark Gerson's book, called The Reunited States, is filled with his experiences and understandings. Recently, the book became a focal point for a new film called The Reunited States that came out earlier this year. The executive producers of The Reunited States are Van Jones and Meghan McCain, who are both interested in helping to bridge the divide in the US. Van Jones is well known for being able to work with all sides of an issue and many people, no matter how tall or short a person is. This picture with Van proves it. The Reunited States film focuses on the race riots at Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017, and then the aftermath. White supremacists and civil rights protesters violently clashed, and a young woman was killed by a racist. The mother of the young woman killed in the race riot is featured in the film. Also featured is a man who had been an operative for the Republican Party in several campaigns, and he had used negative tools to influence voters. This man had a dramatic change of heart and perspective after Charlottesville. He and his wife and children decided to sell their house and go on the road for a year in an RV to travel the US and to talk to and learn from other people who had different views, different experiences, and different backgrounds than theirs. The couple faced some uncomfortable conversations with people they didn't know who were very different from them. Out of it all, they made some real connections with conversations that we all can learn from, as they did. You might recall what else happened about Charlottesville. President Trump claimed that both sides, the racists and the protesters for civil rights, both had good people, and he refused to condemn the racists. This shocked Joe Biden, triggered his statement that we are in a battle for the soul of America. Later on, Charlottesville and Trump's reaction concerning it was a factor in spurring Joe Biden to run for president of the United States and win. The film, The Reunited States, captures so much, and I want to share a clip from the film with you so you can experience some of it for yourself. So let's take a look.
Our country is very divided right now.
Folks were physically attacking one another.
The root causes of division go all the way down into our foundation as a country.
I can't breathe! I can't breathe!
Stop! Stop!
If we're going to live in a democracy, all of us have to learn to be mediators and bridge builders.
My daughter would tell you, let's get on to the issues that she died for.
The divisions are happening in our neighborhoods, they're happening in our schools, and they're happening in our families.
We decided to travel to all 50 states to get an understanding of what was causing these divisions.
Issues we'll inherit are not so much dividing between the left versus right, but really the future versus the past. We decided to create the first ever caucus for young members of Congress.
I want to create a third force in our politics that's able to get us beyond this partisan warfare.
Meeting people across the country who have a passion to see our divisions healed, that gives me hope.
To have someone look at me as if we don't deserve to be respected, we don't deserve to be treated fairly, it does something to you.
We get uranium, we get murder, we get alcohol. Nobody's doing nothing about it.
I wish there was something I could do to help her.
I don't want other mothers to go through this.
This country needs bridge builders.
Don't be afraid to reach out to someone who might not believe exactly like you believe.
Many helpful takeaway ideas came from the people involved in the film, who were trying to learn from others who are different from them and who they normally would not have talked with. Reaching out to them brought understanding and connection. Here are some of what they learned, and also what some experts say too. These are suggestions that we all can use to try to bridge some of the troubled waters that we see and to reach out to others. We all can make a difference in bridging divides, and we all are needed. At first, it can be a little unsettling to move beyond our comfortable circle and to try something new. But these suggestions can help. Let's look at them together. Before you begin, open your heart to new learning and trying to understand the other person. Then try to make a friendly connection with the other person to start the conversation. Find something you have in common and begin building a rapport. Maybe it's just that you both have children, or like a sports team, or pizza, or ice cream. Well, that's the beginning. Show respect and consideration for the other person at all times. Speak from your good heart and share your experiences. Ask the other person questions. When others speak, be a good listener, fully present. Don't be thinking about the next thing you want to say. Try to understand the other person's experience and why they have certain views. Don't try to persuade or to change the other person's mind. Respect that they have a right to their views, just as you do. For more understanding, you might ask what experiences brought them to those views. Remember, this conversation is not a debate to win points. It's to genuinely try to understand another person and to make a connection with them. Show yourself as a kind, compassionate human being who respects them. That will be their experience of you and their takeaway. And that may be the change for them and for you. The realization may be, wow, maybe that person who is white, or Black, Jewish, or Muslim, Asian, Hispanic, less educated, overly educated, poor or affluent, Democrat or Republican, et cetera, isn't so bad. That person may have some strange ideas that I don't agree with, but as a person, he or she is okay. And that could be the takeaway and an improved change of attitude. We have many Americans who still erroneously believe that Trump won the election. A conversation with someone over a cup of coffee is not going to change that person. So what can we do? As ever, it's a heart move. Be respectful. Agree to disagree. Model the behavior yourself that you would like to see from them. And focus on the things you do agree about. Good can come from that. And let's be realistic. There are some people we likely cannot reach and connect with. These are people who want to cause insurrection or are entrenched in racism, hate campaigns, conspiracy theories, or alternate realities. You can make an attempt, but if it doesn't work, don't feel bad. You can still feel good. You can, with a good heart, bless them and then leave them to their souls. Meanwhile, there are many other people who are more open. Reaching out to them can be meaningful and inspiring and helpful to bridge the divides. So be open to that in planned outreaches and in everyday living. A warm smile is a nice beginning. Here's one last story that shows change can happen, even when it's least expected. Meet Michael Kent, a former neo-Nazi whose body was covered in swastikas and skinhead drawings. Michael later said that his beliefs were from experiencing a couple of people's actions that he hated. He expanded that hate to the whole Black race. Meet Tiffany Whittier. Michael credits his Black compassionate parole officer, Tiffany Whittier, with helping him to see beyond skin color and helping him to change his views about white supremacy. Michael says, "She was very kind to me, and she gave me a chance, and it opened my eyes. If it wasn't for her, I would have stepped back into the hate," Michael says. "I look at her as family." Tiffany even inspired Michael to take down the Nazi flags he had hanging in his living room and to replace them with pictures of smiley faces so that he would see positive things instead of hate. Tiffany said, "I'm not here to judge Michael. That's not my job to judge. My job is to be the positive person in someone's life." Michael said, "If you have a strong support system and you have people who believe in you in positive ways, you can change." She gave me the strength and courage to do what I'm doing. Michael did change, and he had the swastikas that were over his body covered up at a tattoo parlor, and he began a new life. And one more thing, Michael has a new friend now. It's Dr. Bernice King, daughter of the late Dr. Martin Luther King. Last year, after Michael's story of change and transformation went viral on Facebook, Dr. Bernice King invited former Nazi, neo-Nazi Michael and Tiffany, his former parole officer, to Atlanta to speak on Martin Luther King Day with her and to spend time with the King family. Dr. Bernice King said, "Michael has now become a brother and that his story is one of inspiration." She said, "It takes a new experience to begin the process of change, and she believes in love and forgiveness, and that we can indeed change." So with that, let us never forget what is possible. Thank you very much.
Sail on, silver bird,